What if I told you that Carl Jung discovered the most dangerous people in any room aren't the ones making noise, but the ones who remain completely silent? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see power forever. According to Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, true dominance operates in the shadows of consciousness. But here's what most people don't know about his research on power dynamics. Carl Jung said that the conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg, what people see on the surface. But the real power? It lives in the unconscious depths. And the most psychologically advanced individuals understand this principle better than anyone else. Jung discovered something that will shock you: the people you think are powerful, the loud ones, the aggressive ones, they're actually the weakest. Do you want to know why? Keep listening. Rule 1: The shadow of silence. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow reveals why silence is your greatest weapon. According to Jung, people project their own fears and insecurities onto others when faced with the unknown. When you remain silent, you become a blank canvas for their psychological projections. But here's where it gets interesting: Jung found that silence triggers something called psychological compensation. I'll explain what this means and why it makes you untouchable in just a moment. Jung discovered that when you refuse to fill the conversational space, others compulsively fill it with their own vulnerabilities. They reveal their strategies, their fears, their weaknesses, all while you gather intelligence. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But when you're silent, you flip this dynamic. Others become irritated by your composure, and in trying to understand you, they expose themselves completely." The next rule will reveal Jung's most controversial discovery about emotional control. This changed everything we know about psychological dominance. Rule 2: The individuated response. According to Carl Jung, individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self, requires mastering what he called emotional objectivity. Jung discovered that those who react emotionally are still trapped in what he termed the collective unconscious, they're puppets to mass psychology. Jung found that 95% of people live in reactive states. But the 5% who achieve individuation, they possess something terrifying to others. Carl Jung's research showed that when you refuse to react emotionally, you're operating from what he called the transcendent function, a higher level of consciousness that integrates both rational and emotional intelligence without being controlled by either. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you truly are isn't someone who can be emotionally manipulated by others' games." But wait until you hear Jung's theory about why emotional control creates what he called psychological inflation in others. This is where it gets really dark. When you maintain emotional equilibrium while others lose theirs, Jung discovered you trigger their shadow projection. They begin to see you as possessing the very qualities they lack: control, strength, mystery. This creates an unconscious power dynamic where they psychologically submit to your composed presence. Rule 3 reveals Jung's most dangerous insight about human nature. This knowledge has been used by world leaders and master manipulators for decades. Rule 3: The anima and animus of influence. Carl Jung discovered that every person has both masculine and feminine psychological energies, the anima and animus. But here's what he found about true influencers: they understand how to embody both simultaneously. According to Jung, the anima represents receptivity, intuition, and emotional depth. The power of listening and observing. The animus represents focused action, logic, and decisive movement. Most people overdevelop one at the expense of the other. Jung found that people who master both energies become psychologically magnetic. But there's a specific technique he discovered that makes this irresistible to others. Carl Jung said that when you can listen with complete presence while maintaining unwavering personal boundaries, you create what he called psychological fascination. People become unconsciously drawn to your energy because you represent the integrated wholeness they're seeking. The fourth rule exposes Jung's research on why scarcity creates psychological obsession. This will change how you think about availability forever. Rule 4: The persona management protocol. According to Carl Jung, the persona is the mask we wear in social situations. But Jung discovered something crucial: most people are controlled by their personas, while psychologically advanced individuals control theirs strategically. Jung found that when you deliberately limit access to your authentic self, when you reveal only calculated aspects of your personality, you create what he termed archetypal fascination. Here's Jung's most controversial finding. People are psychologically addicted to trying to solve human puzzles. And when you become unsolvable. Carl Jung's research showed that humans have an unconscious compulsion to categorize and understand others. It's a survival mechanism. But when you resist categorization, when you remain mysterious, you trigger their exploratory drive, while maintaining your psychological advantage. Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But when you control the reaction, you control the transformation. The final rule contains Jung's ultimate secret about psychological dominance. This technique has been hidden from the public for over 80 years. Rule 5, the transcendent function advantage. Carl Jung discovered that true power comes from what he called the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing forces in consciousness without being torn apart by them. This is the ultimate psychological advantage. According to Jung, when you can remain calm in chaos, silent in noise, composed in crisis, you're operating from a level of consciousness that most people never achieve. You become what he called psychologically superior, not through arrogance, but through integration. Jung found that this creates something he called numinous presence, a quality that makes others unconsciously recognize your psychological advancement. But here's the most powerful part. Carl Jung said that when you embody the transcendent function, you no longer need to compete with others because you're playing an entirely different game. While they're fighting for social position, you're operating from psychological mastery. Jung discovered that this level of consciousness creates what he termed natural authority. People instinctively defer to your judgment not because you demand it, but because your psychological integration speaks to their unconscious desire for wholeness. Remember this: Carl Jung spent his entire career studying power, influence, and human psychology. And his ultimate conclusion? The most dangerous person in any room isn't the one trying to dominate others, it's the one who has completely dominated themselves. According to Jung, who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakens. When you awaken to your own psychological power, external dominance becomes effortless. The question isn't whether you can become psychologically dominant. Jung proved that anyone can develop these capabilities. The question is, are you ready to stop playing everyone else's game and start playing your own? Because once you understand Jung's principles of invisible power, you'll never see social dynamics the same way again. You'll recognize the psychological patterns others can't see. You'll move through the world with a level of strategic awareness that most people will never comprehend. That's not just influence. That's psychological mastery. And according to Carl Jung, it's your birthright. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it.